how do you see fintech businesses leveraging CX as a competitive advantage?
If you browse a Paytm or a Cred app, you can get loans very quickly. 600 plus banks were live on UPI. The total quantum of transactions was 20 lakh crores only and only in August.
How does fintech sector specifically earn revenue?
A bank can accept deposits, a fintech cannot. I as a customer am so hooked to the app now that I may not be going to any other bank. If you are going for a movie ticket, for a flight ticket, etc., it can do that for you.
What are the challenges that you foresee in the near future?
The biggest challenge is privacy. Wallets are not that secure today. Data theft is one of the biggest issues. So whenever you go to a website, you click allow. Even your single click gets tracked. Wherever you are clicking, on what website you are clicking, what you are typing, where your mouse is moving, even that gets tracked.
Hello viewers, welcome back to the Bizz show. Today's episode is Navigating Digital Transformation in Fintech with Mr. Chinmay Bindal. Mr. Chinmay is a leader in the fintech industry and is recognized as a top voice in consulting by LinkedIn. He is placed in the top 3 percentile worldwide. With appreciable experience in the fields of fintech and consulting, he has a knack for business changes. Chinmay has worked extensively with C-suite executives from Fortune 100 and 500 companies. We can't wait to learn from his knowledge and immense experience. Here's to Mr. Chinmay. Hello Chinmay, it's an absolute pleasure having you with us today. So thank you for being here. So can we start by defining digital transformation in the context of fintech?
Sure, Vanilla. First of all, thank you very much for having me.
It's our pleasure.
It's a pleasure to be here as well. So first of all, I would like to have the biggest myth being debunked about digital transformation. Whenever we are talking about this as a word, we think technology is the only base of it. But I always like to use a framework, I call it as PPT, wherein we talk about people, process as well as technology. So when we are talking about transformation, it's evolution across all the three buckets. If I have to quickly break it down, from a people perspective, it's very important to have a workforce transformation to get your workforce AI skilled, to get your workforce digitally skilled. It's very important in the sense that you can apply technology today, you can have 10 different things being done for the client or for the end consumer. But today, if you or me today are going and browsing a website, and if I'm going to call a contact center, I should be able to get a proper answer from them. And that is where AI builds in. I should also have the technology where if there's a human sitting behind, I should have that view that the person is solving my problem. So people is another important part of it. If I have to move on the process side, it's a whole customer journey that we have to see today, and I'll come to that when we double click on this. But it's important to understand that you cannot just again implement a technology and forget about it. You need to keep evolving, you need to customize it, personalize it, and that is where process becomes a very important thing. And last and obviously the most important base of it is technology. So when we are talking about technology today, again the implementation of it is how modern are you able to bring in. One important aspect of technology today is you need to come out of your legacy shell. You don't need to be at a moment wherein you are telling that okay, I can have a 10-year-old technology, I can bring in some light components to it and I can transform myself. No, that's not going to happen. So if you see even the biggest fintechs of the world today, it's important for them to make composable platforms. So what do I mean when I say composable platforms? You have a backend which is more or less consistent, but then you end up changing the front end technology. And that is where I feel technology becomes a very important part. In context of fintechs is very important because fintech is all about attracting the Gen Zs today. You talk about a 20-year-old, a 25-year-old, a 30-year-old, they would be browsing more app like Paytm rather than browsing a Bank of India website. So for them, that's very important that you have the best-in-class experience, and that is where digital transformation becomes important for fintech.
That's very well explained because I think for a layman, even for me, I've understood what it is about. So as we see, Chinmay, customer experience-led digital transformation is a hot topic right now. So how do you see fintech businesses leveraging CX as a competitive advantage?
Sure. So Vanilla, let's break it down again. What happened 5, 10 years ago, 15 years ago with the banks? Whenever you are again going, you have to go first of all in branch. what is customer experience at the end of the day? How easy and how convenient is an application made for you?
Absolutely.
So if for example today you're applying, if you browse a Paytm or a cred app, you can get loans very quickly. You go to an Amazon, you also have this Amazon Pay ICICI credit cards. It's a co-branded card, as we say.
Yeah.
This is where customer experience becomes important. So for me, when we are talking about customer experience, you need to look throughout the journey. You start off earlier, what was acquisition, today you need to attract the customer. You cannot simply acquire through a linear process and you forget the customer. You need to serve the customer. When I'm talking about serving, it has to be at the attract stage and the stage when you have done the transaction. So for example, just in our case, let's take a e-commerce example again. If you buy it from an Amazon or a Flipkart, you immediately, whenever you buy, the process does not end there. There would be a feedback, there would be a person or the app asking you for a feedback. Then there would be some follow-ups. So for example, I recently booked a travel ticket from one of the leading traveling websites. They would always follow with me after 10 to 15 days, what's happening. So that is where you attract, you serve, as well as you delight the customers. So instead of making them loyal, you need to delight the customers today. How do you do it? Again, you create that customer experience at each of the stages. So it just does not end at the attract stage, but it goes through serving, wherein you engage them through gamification, you bring them good rewards, etc. So that is where one of the most important thing is, where fintechs are ahead. Fintechs have that advantage of customer bases. I'll again come to data as an example later, but let me just take an example of UPI, for instance. Can you imagine the quantum? So if I take just the example of August, right? 600 plus banks were live on UPI. The total quantum of transactions was 20 lakh crores. This was only and only in August. So now imagine, so imagine the kind of data coming into this fintechs. A lot of you and me would not, I don't know, even the audiences, how many would end up doing payments through a HDFC Pays app. I do a lot of my payments through a fintech like a Cred, or through a fintech like a Paytm. Now, you might not get the data directly. You might not see a name of Vanilla, but you would say that, okay, Vanilla transacts a lot on this particular shop, or this is the behavioral habits of Vanilla. So you would end up getting to, or the fintech would end up getting to know what exactly they are doing. That is where I feel customer experience is a very good advantage today for a company like fintechs, who are just coming in, who have the basis of the customers and who can really leverage it. So when we are talking about customer experience, we need to leverage this next best offer to give them the next best experience. So today it's not only about offer. What I give you, it's not. So let me again give you an example. There's one bank and there's the second bank. Again, I'll not take the name of banks here, and it has happened with me as well.
Okay.
I lost my credit card, okay, and one of my friends' bank, who again had a similar experience, they apologized. They told that we'll replace your card. That's it. Huge frustration point. But for me, when I lost my credit card, this bank called me up. They told that we are really sorry for your inconvenience. It may take 5 to 10 to 15 days for your credit card to arrive at your home. We'll give you a virtual card. We'll enhance your credit limit as well for those 15 days. Now that's when I talk about experience. That is where my customer experience gets leveraged. And that is a big differentiation that today fintechs are doing. They are able to talk to you and me very frequently, very conveniently, rather than what a bank does. So I guess that's where the biggest difference is from NBO to an NBS experience. Another thing is, a lot of them, as I said, are focusing on Gen Z. The experience need to be very much Gen Z related today. Even if you're talking to a 40-year-old, I'll take the example of Europe in this case. Europe has a lot of teenage cards. They don't have credit card as such, but they would have products, a savings account for a 15 or a 16-year-old that will have gamification features. So for example, if there's a parent, 45-year-old parent who is seeing and who is thinking, oh wow, Revolut, which is one of the major fintech players in Europe, is giving my kid a gamification experience. Why cannot my particular bank give? They end up changing the bank altogether. And you end up getting a whole family in your bucket instead of just one particular kid. So that's where the cross-sell, upsell opportunity also happens for them. Another important thing from a customer experience perspective is, you talk about 3 C's always, and fintechs are leveraging it beautifully. We talk about creative, we talk about commerce, and we talk about content. Okay, when we are talking about creative, it's all about UI UX, that is user experience and user design or user interfaces that you see. Huge difference again in what I would see at a traditional bank app and the difference that I would see at a cred or at a paytm. Again, I'll keep throwing in this example because that's most relatable to all of us.
Exactly, yeah.
That's where the user experience comes in. Now you have made the app beautiful, great. It does not stop there. You need to keep in the right content. That's where the content part comes in. When we are talking about content here, we need to understand that you need to push the right offer, but also need to educate the customer. Financial services is a lot about literacy. In India, unfortunately, a lot many even working individuals are not financially literate. So they would not end up knowing that which is the right card for me, which is the right investment for me. If we talk about wealth management, is this the right mutual fund for me, for example? So a lot of these fintechs are doing or giving that financial literacy programs. That is where they are able to again attract customers. So that is where content comes in. And commerce is how easy are you able to make the transaction for them. Again, just to cite you an example, and it's a difference between GPay and Cred. They have made this difference purposefully. In Cred, I can get my payment done in 1 or 2 seconds at max. GPay will take me 5-10 seconds. GPay has their own rationale behind doing this. It's not that they cannot do it, but they would want it for a security purpose. I, as a customer, can prefer any of that, right? Today, if you want that your transactions needs to be secured, what you do is you end up talking about, you would want more time. You would maybe want to confirm it once before paying again. I don't care. I would want to just make that 100 rupee payment anyhow. I want that in 1 second. I don't want to stay in front of the merchant. So that is where the difference has come in, and you create these 3 C's, you create a holistic customer journey, and that is where fintechs are actually leveraging it today as we speak. A lot many players, see, the most important thing for a financial technology is the barriers to entry are low. So anybody can today create a fintech at a smaller level and they can scale it. So that is where customer experience becomes important for them. We all have low span attentions. We all love 30-second Instagram reels today rather than
Absolutely, yeah.
watching a 40-minute, 50-minute video. That is where these fintechs are leveraging that. You give the customers quick and hassle-free transaction, they'll be quick to pounce on it. So that is where I feel CX-led digital transformation is key today.
That's very beautifully explained, Chinmay. I think me and my audience both we have like more clarity in this concept right now. So as you see, everything around us seems to be minting money right now. So how does fintech sector specifically earn revenue?
So again, fintechs have a very diverse model, and there's no one size fits all approach. But the major revenue that they come, or the you ask any fintech expert and they would say lending is the first thing. What's the biggest difference between bank and a fintech? A bank can accept deposits, a fintech cannot, because they have RBI regulations, they have XYZ problems with them, and that is where fintechs earn a lot of their revenue through lending. Again, lending here means they would partner off with a bank. You would be pushed your credit, you would be pushed to buy a 50,000 loan very quickly. You can get that loan process in 10-20 seconds, which will take days with a bank. So their largest revenue comes from lending. Then there are another kind of fintechs. So again, when we talk about fintechs, we also need to understand it's a combination of finance and technology. That means anything that's related to finance, anything that relates to technology, we combine them and we create or we give them that experience. So when we talk about financial technology here, the another thing is insurtech as a space that we see. So when we are talking about insurance technology, how easy are you able to dole out an insurance? So player like Acco, today you go to a policy bazaar or you to go to a Paisa bazaar, you immediately can find that options. What are they? They are account aggregators today. They do nothing but specifically mention that okay, there are 10 different cards for you according to your eligibility, your income, your preferences. You like travel, we will push you this credit card. That is where these account aggregators come in. They are also fintech. They earn through different kind of revenue schemes. So it's a very diverse business model, but again, that's where the opportunity lies for fintech as well, to earn and learn as well. A lot of fintechs are now actually leveraging. We all know what happened with Paytm as recently. Paytm Payments Bank got dissolved and they had now issuing restrictions as well. But what Paytm did meanwhile was they attracted customers. I, as a customer, am so hooked to the app now that I may not be going to any other bank. I will be doing my UPI transactions, etc. through them. What they've done is they've created an ecosystem around things. What do we mean when I say that they've created an ecosystem? Today, if I have to go and buy my airline ticket, I can go to a Paytm. Today, if I want to go and watch a movie, I can go to a Paytm. Paytm already knows my preferences. I do not have to fill in details prior. Paytm through this, what they get understanding of data. They get what my customer wants today. They innovate. They bring in new services accordingly. And that's where they create those value add as well. So I feel that is where from a lending perspective, or from a revenue perspective, lending is the major chunk of it, but then you will see new business models coming in because RBI is very strict. Let's take it as a fact. They will not let fintech breathe a sigh of relief. Rightly so. Fintechs have very high risk frameworks. They are not very genuine in the practices that they do as well sometimes. We saw that again in some of the cases. So yeah, from a revenue perspective, lending is the biggest, but then you have some evolving factors also coming in.
So understood, like along with lending, there are some other factors coming in. So that's where the major chunk of revenue comes in from. So makes sense, Chinmay. So as a fintechs around the world are, more invested into AI and automation. So what are the challenges that you foresee in the near future?
The biggest challenge that I foresee in the near future, and that has even been there for the past 5 to 6 years, is privacy. Today, if we talk about AI, and again, I'll give you some examples that are happening around the world, but the biggest challenge with AI is privacy, how you keep your data secure, how much are customers willing to share their data as well. Recently, we had this crypto wallet data being leaked. Now we talk about blockchain being one of the most secure technologies in the world. Absolutely, they are. But when you're talking about what links to blockchain with the customers, it's a wallet. Wallets are not that secure today. What's happening is if you feed your data in a wallet, you feed your money in the wallet. Even for any instance, any wallet you take a Amazon wallet, you take a Paytm wallet, they are not that secure. If they say so, obviously that's not right. So from a technology perspective, privacy is one of the biggest issues. Data theft is one of the biggest issues. You see a lot of the data being coming out, or a lot of data is being hacked out as well. So that is where I feel there's a big privacy issue that we are facing today. Now basis this, for example, US court has done is your cookie based consent will be permanent, like banks will not be able to collect third party data, or there would be more scrutiny over third party data. Today, how does a bank know that Vanilla is not a customer of a bank? And if that bank needs to bring you under their ecosystem, they would want to know what you do, right? They need to get this data through third party. You will not give them data. You will obviously come and say, no, why will I give that data if I am not getting any benefit? But that is where privacy challenges comes in. The way this third party aggregators or third party websites take your data is unethical many a times. So privacy is the biggest challenge. See, when we are talking about artificial intelligence, what's the biggest motivation behind it? The reason is it makes your job easier. How it makes your job easier? It collects the data that it has done. It has a huge data repository. Under that repository, it segments customers. Basis on segmenting that customer, it makes a list that maybe a human cannot do today. That is what AI does for you in a very simple sense. So the kind of data that feeds in is the kind of output you will receive, and that is where privacy comes in. Again, in India, I'll bring up that financial literacy as a topic. We are not that literate and we end up sharing our data. Can you imagine if you are, so whenever you go to a website, you click allow, right?
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
And you would always do that. Now what happens after that is not many people know. What happens is even your single click gets tracked. Wherever you are clicking, on what website you are clicking, what you are typing, where your mouse is moving, even that gets tracked. So when we are talking about privacy, that becomes a bigger concern. They can end up creating fintechs, again will face this problem because today, again coming just to fintech as a topic, they will face problem because people are now getting much more mature. They are not sharing that data. Now imagine if they are not sharing data, how will they be able to know what kind of services to push, how to innovate? That brings me to my next challenge, which is bias in AI algorithms. That does not happen a lot in India, but happens a lot in places like the America, specifically US, Brazil. It happens in Europe a lot as well. We have seen with our clients facing this problem. Now, what do I mean when I say there's a bias in AI algorithm? Today, in US, for example, there's big difference between white and black. No matter how much we speak, there's always this big difference.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What happens is there are marginalized communities. today. Now, what this marginalized communities, what the AI data feeds in is, if you are creating an AI program, you would feed in a lot of data that's related to a white person, for example. And whenever a black person comes in and applies, they might get rejected. They might have a good history of credit, but they might get rejected altogether. That is just one of the biases. Another bias that happens in countries like India, also happens a lot outside, is the credit history biases. So for example, if a 20 or 21-year-old is taking the loan first time, does not have a credit history, AI will tell you not to give the person a loan. But who knows that today this person takes a 10,000 or 20,000 loan, they may end up converting a lot. They may end up converting with you for a 10 lakh loan or for a 15 lakh loan going forward, because these are high earning classes. Let's take example of Hyderabad. You have the Amazons, Googles of the world. Imagine a 21, 22-year-old going and seeing Paytm, okay, I'll take a 50K loan. Paytm declines them basis on they don't have a credit history, etc., which is obviously not the case today. They do give loans, but that happens a lot. Your credit decisioning is not that great. What you do, you not only end up losing that 50K opportunity, but you end up losing a 10 lakh or a 20 lakh opportunity, because you know this Amazon person will be working at a 20, 30, 40, 50 lakh opportunity in the next 5 years only, and they will require loan. So basically bias in algorithms is another concern that I see with AI. Another thing is, from a customer experience perspective, a lot of firms are not able to leverage reporting regulations. So when we are talking about customer experience, again, you need to bring in the right data. That right data is hampered today because there are a lot of regulatory and reporting challenges. Fintechs, absolutely important. RBI is very strict on things, and that is where I feel regulation as a challenge is a big hindrance for them. And it's totally opposite. Like, it's so ironical to even talk about it. In India, you don't have regulations, and RBI will come in and say at any point of time, okay, you need to adhere to this. The regulations are there, but it's very nascent. Fintechs are troubled here also. You go to a place like Europe, very stringent regulations, very structured regulations, but again the fintechs face problem because they are costly. To even adhere to those regulations, you need billions, millions of dollars, or millions of euros. How do you bring that as a fintech? Next to impossible, right? And then you again bring, and even one lapse in a place like EU, place like Europe, your firm can get dissolved. So regulation is another key challenge that I feel that fintechs will face in the coming years, even more so with data being a very important thing. How do they navigate through it? It's important for them to understand that they need to adhere, they need to forecast what is happening. Just to give you an example of a sustainability directive, right? There's this directive called Corporate Social Responsibility Directive.
Yeah.
That's a very important directive in European Union. It also brings in companies or banks or financial or any companies for that matter, not irrespective of industry, brings in companies who are not even based out of Europe, but who have customers in Europe. So for example, today, if I talk about a company like a Facebook, which is very important for us to understand that they might be based out of US, or they might be based out of they might have headquarters somewhere else, but they would end up going and they'll have to do this reporting standards there as well. Again, ironical, might sound stupid to some people, but again, it's important for them. So regulations is another key area that fintechs really struggle a lot.
So totally makes sense, Jimmy. So what do you think of AI eating up the manual workforce? I mean, there's a threat, right? So does this aspect impact the fintechs as well?
It does impact the fintech. So I would always see this as a positive thing, and I'll give you 2 or 3 different areas where workforce transformation has really, AI or Gen AI has really helped workforce transformation. So the one is, and one of the use cases I'll pick up is document collections. Okay. Earlier, whenever you go to a bank, if you have ever taken a home loan, you would understand that there would be a person who would come at your home, see if you are first of all living there. There will be a lot of address checks.
Yeah.
You would have to give them a lot of documents physically.
Yes.
You will have a specific person dedicated to it. Today, that's not happening with a lot of firms. You upload the documents, you give them your identity, the person may not even come at your home, but there are geolocation available. They know that Vanilla has a home at XYZ location, they'll track you. They don't need to do that. All of this at the hands of technology. This is where fintechs are benefiting today. Another area that where fintechs are benefiting today is call center automation. Today you will see a lot of virtual chatbots, so you don't need to necessarily call customer care. And you and me all know how irritating customer care can be. First
Yes.
of all, you have to wait for 20 minutes, 25 minutes, 30 minutes that okay, they'll answer my call. With chatbot, you have a queue. You can quickly convert in that queue, and you just chat in your, if there's a smaller query, you don't have to wait for 25-30 minutes, right? You just do a chatbot. Again, chatbot has evolved a lot. You have some standardized answer for which you don't even need a human involvement. You maybe chat. So for example, a Indigo, right? If I have to do a web check-in, I simply go on WhatsApp, I tell them I need to do a web check-in. They can do that process for me easier, for which I used to earlier maybe call a call center or maybe do it via an app. That makes a job lot easier for me. Similarly for fintech, where the call centers and chatbot comes in, is if you do a call center automation, fintechs can actually put up a lot of their times for customers front facing jobs. So today they can interact a lot with customers, or they can, instead of letting the back office employees sit there. So I see that as a very positive aspect for fintech. Replacing humans, I am not very sure. I am not very optimistic, to be honest. They will not end up replacing humans, but it's very similar to what you had information technology in the 80s and 90s. That is what artificial intelligence is today. 80s and 90s, nobody thought a computer would change my life. Today, all of us sit behind a laptop and do our work.
Absolutely. Yeah.
There's no other way that a lot of we see in that aspect. Now, when we talk about AI, it's very similar. People will think that what a chat GPT or what a conversational or a Gen AI would do to me may not be very significant, but they are wrong about it. It will definitely change your lives. Now, how it changes your life is totally up to you. For me, I always tell that upskilling is very important thing here. The more you upskill, the more you learn about your particular field, it will become niche. So while the population grows, while the workforce comes in, what will differentiate you apart is how quickly you learn those technologies. A very simple way or a very simple framework for any audience member to compare this is what AI was in the what IT was in the 80s and 90s. The more earlier you start learning how to use a computer, how to use a laptop, the more skilled you will get at it. How you can make those websites, the more skill you would get at it. Today it's very similar to AI. How quickly are you able to use functions like blockchain? How easy are you able to use cryptos? How easy are you able to use the use cases will be the key factor today for any client for that matter. So upskilling, a very important thing, and I feel it's definitely not going to replace humans. That's not happening, but it's just the way you transform yourself.
I think thank you for giving that, mantra, because as we said, there's a lot of commotion about, AI replacing humans and, millions of jobs would be lost. But I think this completely makes sense. So thank you for this explanation. So as, Chinmay, we have also seen top MNCs and IT companies heavily involved in fintech digital transformation. So what are the trends that could shape them, and what should these companies watch out for in the next 5 years?
Sure. So given I am from a consulting side, I would talk a lot of our investments from the companies that I worked, irrespective of the place that I am currently working at. But for example, if I am working at Capgemini right now, there are a lot of investments happening from Capgemini in different areas. There are a lot of investments that happen from a Tech Mahindra or a Deloitte perspective and similar competitive firms. So where these firms are investing is a very good signal to see where clients want more money in, or where clients would focus more on is as well. So just from a trend perspective, I see fintech being converted or being going into a super app ecosystem. What banks used to do is, the basic job of a bank was you accept money from people and you lend money to people. That's the simple bank job of a bank that used to happen. It has transformed 360 degrees today for a fintech. It's not about you just accepting money and you just giving money to them, but it's important how you do that. And it's important beyond banking, what are all experiences are you able to give them. So one of the important trends that a lot of companies today come to us and say is, how can we create an integrated ecosystem? How can we create embedded finance? So when I use the word embedded finance, what I mean is you bring in finance across all your lifestyle. So today, if you're going for a shopping, a finance app can do that for you. If you're going for a movie ticket, for a flight ticket, etc., it can do that for you. So a lot of convergence. A great example again is healthcare. For example, health insurance is all, majority of that now is online. You try to reduce, and again one of the and I use a lot of services of Ditto. They are again a very good player when we talk about it. They would not follow up with you, and they would do a lot of technology process easy for you. You don't have to again give a call and do a lot of things for them. So a process gets easier. So how do you converse a fintech into different platforms? Again, Amazon is a great example. Amazon has this partnership. Amazon Pay is there now. You can add actually money in Amazon and you can pay through UPI. So imagine you don't actually need a cred or even a Paytm today. You and me do a lot of transactions through Amazon.
Yes.
Amazon Fresh is there. You can tell me one thing that probably you cannot do via Amazon. Would be very less, right? You can buy groceries, you can buy clothes, you can buy anything and everything that you want to. Imagine now under that you can also pay to merchants via UPI. So that's happening with Amazon today. What Amazon is doing is they have a UPI QR code. You can go and scan that and you can make the payments. So you don't need any other app. That is where we are seeing a lot of investments in. Another investment we are seeing is as Gen Z gets evolved, as people get evolved, there is also a lot of focus on sustainability as a concept. So we are also seeing a lot of focus on ESG initiatives that the firms are taking. Now a lot of firms are doing greenwashing. What do I mean when I say greenwashing? Greenwashing is basically publicizing your efforts that you have done XYZ from a ESG initiative, but in the end you haven't done anything. You are making false statements. ESG is a very hard to measure concept. You can tell that I went to old age home and I did a social responsibility job for them. Great, but who knows that you did it or you did not
Exactly.
do it,
Yeah.
right? So that's where ESG comes as a very important thing. For fintech specifically, the reporting becomes a very important thing. How socially responsible are they? What's the biggest problem when we are talking about finance and fintechs is, are the investments happening in green areas? So a lot of firms today have banned investments in oil, investments in tech, investments in areas which are not environment friendly today. You get a lot of interest rate subsidies today if you are planning something green initiative. So for example, if you are doing a solar plant or if you are building a solar plant, there would be line of banks that would be coming and giving it to you. Why? It's not because they want to give it to you, because they have a mandated target as well. They would want to make that reporting easier. So ESG is another area that I really see a lot of opportunity in and firms are really taking in. Another is obviously generative AI. We have discussed that a lot already. But just to give you a glimpse again, there's also emerging areas such as explainable AI. While I was talking about bias in AI, explainable AI actually gives you or gives you and me the right to know where this data has come from. So a lot of companies today want to be transparent in terms of what communication they are giving it to customers. So if today you are very much fond of seeing that where your data is coming from because you don't want to give your data, you have something important and you really don't want to share it with people. And explainable AI can also help you where the data is being collected from. You can see and companies can see if the biases exist today.
I think that's useful.
Yeah, that's very useful today in today's case. So that is another area. Gen AI is obviously a very important figure for all of the firms out there. Another area is the ecosystem partnerships that the fintech firm can do. When I was talking about embedded finance, when I was talking about super apps, this can only be possible when you create a partnership ecosystem. When you create an ecosystem wherein you are giving a like for like benefit. Why will a Amazon or why will an XYZ want to shake hands with you when you cannot provide them the benefit? In, for example, in US, you have an Apple card. What that Apple card does is it's nothing but a reseller of the normal cards that you see with banks, but they provide you some extra value added benefits. A lot of these players cannot issue their own bank cards, so they would have to tie up with some banks because they have the right to do so. So ecosystem partnerships become a very important thing for banks today. So I feel that is another area that I see as a key trend. So basically, yes, ESG initiatives, generative AI as an area, convergence in a super app, and overall, how do you create a better CX through good ecosystem partnerships as some of the key trends that I'm seeing today from a fintech perspective.
That's really very interesting. So, adding on to that, I think every fintech organization has a digital transformation strategy that they plan for the next, 10 or 20 years or in the long term. So, I mean, all these which we are talking right now are being implemented. So, what technological implications can be, added on to them if we talk about a long term plan for these companies in the terms of, customer experience, or they leveraging this as an advantage, or how would it be?
So, from a technological implementation or the effect that they will have is, it's important for them to keep that revolution today. See, we have had a very hard time during the pandemic. For firms, it was good because a lot of investment in digital transformation happened. But now it's important for firms to prove it. Technology selection becomes a very important thing for fintech today because it's a funding winter, as we say in our common parlance. That means that generally the funds are not coming today very easily to fintechs. So what happened 3 years or 4 years prior was, you say that I want to do this, you will get money for that from the investors. Today that's not happening.
They
So
are also
from
very rigid.
yeah, it's very rigid, absolutely. And that is where I feel that it's important for the firms to analyze what technology is important for them, what kind of stack is important for them to gain. Is there anything reusable that they can reuse from their current technology, because they've already invested a lot, right? There are even circumstances we speak with clients and we get to know that they need to replace whole technology itself. And that is where I feel 2 or 3 important criteria comes in. You need to see, or you need to make a decision between build versus buy. So what technologies can you build in-house? Do you really need to buy that? Because buying can be expensive. So that implication is very important for a fintech today. So I feel, in a nutshell, it's important for them to assess what's right for them, and it's important for them to go ahead and see if they can actually implement those technologies, if it's making sense from a business case, from an investment case perspective.
Beautifully explained, Chinmay. So you have worked in various leadership roles, including Tech Mahindra Shadowwood. So what do you think are the current trends in the consulting industry, and how are they getting shaped in the near future?
Very good question. So from a consulting perspective, it's transformed totally from what we were seeing in 2015, 2016. And I'll give you a simple example of it. So today, a lot of firms have in-house strategy teams, which were not existing 10 years, 15 years before. And it's a joke that we say even in our in consulting parlance, that there are two types of customers or two types of clients. One is who are really serious about you and they want you to bring a change as a consultant, and the next one is who have already decided but they are bringing an external person in, so that if anything goes wrong they can blame
Just
things
blame
on you.
that, yeah.
So there are always these two kinds of customers that you will get, and that's true even today. But what has changed is, a lot of firms have now started building consulting capabilities in-house. That means that consulting has become a lot niche today. So you cannot just go and do a process transformation for them. You cannot just go and do, and you can tell that XYZ things will work for you, but you need to be really deep dive in the way that you're working today. Simple example is again market research as a concept. Market research earlier was used to be one of the key features of any client. Or for if there's a consulting being provided, market research used to be a first step. Now today companies have started doing that in-house. I go to a client, they say, I've already done this research, now you just analyze it for me. That is where analysis skills becomes very important for a consultant today. A lot of these things have been worked in-house. The second is, today consulting has become a lot niche. So earlier what a general consultant can deliver consulting to a oil and gas player, to a BFSI player, today that's not happening. Today you need to be, while you need to know all the industries, you need to be expert of one. It's a combination of jack of all trades, and you need to also be master of one. You cannot just be a generalistic in today's world. So that is where it's important for a consulting folk today. And another important today is how skilled or how capable you are with AI technologies. A lot of today across industries, you will get a lot of consulting assignments on how AI is shaping, how AI can help them, etc., etc. So it's important for you to be very updated on what emerging technologies are doing in respective fields. And the most important thing is, and this has been true, it has changed in the way you talk to customers, but it's important for you how you build the relationship with customers. Today, consulting has become tough. You have seen McKinsey laying off people, you have seen all the big consulting
Absolutely, yeah.
firms not doing great in terms of businesses because they are not bringing in new businesses. Whatever old clients are there, they are able to upsell, cross-sell them, but new businesses are tough to get. So to create that differentiation, you need to have a pitch that makes you feel important, that makes you feel that okay, no, he is the person or she is the person who can solve the problem for them and change the world 360 degrees. You never change the world 360 degrees, but you need to end up showing them that you can change the world for them. So I feel these are some of the areas that I feel consulting is very important. It's very niche and it has to be targeted as well today.
Absolutely. I think you have given us the motivation for upskilling. I think it's very important right now, and we all delve on it So you have worked extensively with professionals and top tier management of Fortune 100 and 500 companies. So can you please tell us about one digital transformation strategy that has stood out and the reasons behind it?
Sure, Vinila. So there are assignments that we generally work from a consulting perspective, and there's a consistency when we talk about the consulting assignments. So one thing that we generally do, and I feel that's the best approach, is how do you create an integrated strategy for a client. So for example, we recently did a consulting project a year back or so for a client which had 6 or 7 different subsidiaries, all non-online. They would have nothing online and they would want to integrate their whole business strategy. Now here, on paper it looks very easy that you can just combine all those, you can have a legal name and you can go about it, but it does not make sense that way. So you need to do a whole PPT transformation. As I again said, you need to transform or do a work people or a good change management. You also need to bring in a process that integrates everything, yet brings up individual entities of each of the brands. And then you also need to bring a technology that from a back end looks great, but also from a front end it's very easier for the customer to work onto. So the recent transformation that we did was again bringing them from offline to online. And the story does not end here. When we talk about online or again digital transformation, the biggest myth is you bring the customer online, you bring them, you transact them, that's great, it's done. No. An important aspect of digital transformation is omni-channel or omni-channel orchestration. Now, what do I mean when I say omni-channel is you need to combine your online and offline channels so that you make the experience consistent. And between online to online channels is also great. I'll give you an example and maybe you can try it on your own as well. If you go there and if you go on any of the Paisa Bazaar, Policy Bazaar websites, you fill in an application and you drop out in between. Yeah. Within 1 or 2 minutes, you'll get a call from the contact center. Yes. Okay, why have you dropped out in between? What has been your challenge? That is what omni-channel is. Whereas a lot of firms today believe multi-channel is good and it's making them happy, but it's not the case. So the digital transformation that we generally do is integrating a lot of these subsidiaries or a lot of businesses into one single entity. You do it from a process, from a people as well as technology perspective. You see what all processes are redundant from an offline perspective and you bring them online, processes from both backend as well as front end. And then you go up and say that, okay, now the processes are great. Now what? Now the next is, since you have a good process, you bring in good technology as well. And that is where we end up helping them with a 3 to 5 or 6 year roadmap. So from my perspective, this is the digital transformation projects that we generally do, and that's a good strategy for a firm as well. It's very quick. I would say in couple of months you get a good strategy, and then in 3 to 5 years you get a good roadmap to reshape yourself.
That's very inspiring, Chinmay. So let's have a fun rapid fire round. So, but I think with you it will be very informative as well. So, coming to the first question, what are the 5 common mistakes you see in today's resumes?
So I'll be quick with this probably. Sure. Since it's a rapid fire. So the first mistake that we see is candidates going too overboard. Candidates making very big resumes. You will create a 4 or 5 page CV that does not help. Candidate not even focusing on their CVs from a grammatical perspective. One thing that is a mistake and I feel that may or may not be very relevant is not having your photograph on the CV. It's very important. And the last that I see is not going beyond your CV. So always have your CV plus cover letter along with you so that you can reach out to prospective recruiter.
That's very informative. So next question, for introverted individuals, what tips would you give for improving their public speaking skills?
The biggest thing that I feel is you do public speaking. You try to speak in front of your own folks. So you talk to them with that. You have a confidence. The second is, and it's a very traditional method, but I prefer it's the best, is speak in front of mirror. You need to design your pace accordingly. And the best thing is for an introvert is just go out and speak. Even if it's not making sense many a times, you just go on and speak.
Yeah. So next question, what are the 5 rookie mistakes people make in consulting?
5 rookie mistakes. The first one I would say is they think consulting is all client facing. It is not. Overthinking that I'll be on the client facing job from the first day is a very rookie mistake that these guys make, and that demotivates them. Second is even when before getting into a consulting role, you should be very aware of what consulting is about. It's high work pressure but high rewarding career. The third is a lot of people don't network with like-minded people. You need to network well, and you need to network with the right folks and not with just some random person. Another thing that I see from a consulting perspective is once you are established, you tend to think that we are done with the client and we don't end up cross-selling or upselling them more, or we don't end up recommending them more. The last mistake that I see is, and I feel a lot of candidates do, is they don't have a mentor at the start of their career. It is very important to follow a person who has done this, in and out from 10 years, and you just need to follow them.
So the next question is, attending IIM or another reputed university worth for upskilling in consulting or any other field, if you might say?
Yes, it does, Vanilla. So again, it's a very good question, but again, it's not the end of the world. If you can get into one of the very prestigious institutes, that's great. If not, then also it's not a big problem. You can get that over your career.
So what movies would you recommend to someone starting out in finance?
Okay, that's a good question. So one is Wolf of the Wall Street. In India, you have two good movies made on finance, that is Scam 1992 and 2003. Then another is The Big Short. And then there's a series called Billions. It is not based on one particular event, but it's about investment banking, hedge funds, but again very dramatized. So it will not be a boring watch for you.
Understood. So that was your rapid fire. You truly are a treasure trove of knowledge. Thank you so much for being on the Bizz show.
Thank you, Vanilla, for having me. It was a pleasure speaking with you, and thanks to the team as well for arranging all of these.
Thank you so much. That's a very interesting episode with Mr. Chinmay. For more such interesting content, please subscribe to Bizz.